So recently my BMW has been blowing fuses for the heater blower motor, and that blower motor is not blowing hot air, and it's been blowing this fuse right here. So I sanded the terminal a little bit, it had a little rust residue on there, and then I tightened it up and put this back in there. But we were still not blowing any hot air for the blower motor, the external one, which is behind this firewall. But now I have it out, so it's over here. This is what it looks like. So it's fairly common in the blower motors for the bearings to go bad, to rust out, to lock up, and not work well. On mine, it does spin, but it has a lot of resistance to it. So what I'm doing is I'm going to purchase a replacement blower motor and reuse the fans to save some money. If you buy a complete assembly, it's somewhere upwards around $300. Or just to buy a motor, it's around $70 to $80. So I'm going with just replacing the motor. And then if you're going to do this yourself, you need to look at what type of blower motor you have. There's a Soffica and a Bear, and there's two different ones, and you need to figure out which one you have to buy the correct replacement one. Usually there's a sticker on it that tells you which one, but mine didn't have the sticker. But if you look closely here, it tells you a part number. And I can't remember, but mine was a Bosch blower motor, which is related also to one of those brands, but if you look up the part number, you can find out which one you need. But to get the blower motor out, it's a little difficult. You're gonna have to get the firewall somewhat removed. But the firewall has these lines from, I think it's lines for the AC, compressor or pump. And you don't really want to disconnect these. So what you can do is, to get the firewall off without disconnecting these lines, go through and cut all the zip ties that are holding this electrical cable on. This will give you more room. And then you'll also have to go through, there's like a screw or a bolt that goes in right here. And then there's a couple of other ones that go along the firewall that bolts it in. So you want to get all those off, and you want to get all the zip ties off to allow as much room as possible to bring this back. And then what I also had to do was, right here, there was a bolt sticking out like this one. And for my particular car, these bolts aren't really used for anything. And this bolt was getting in the way, hitting this, not allowing enough clearance. So I went through and just cut that off to allow as much space as possible. And then this is where the blower motor sits. It sits right in here. And there'll be two black covers that cover the blower motor. And then there's also a little hinge right there, as you can see. And to remove the black covers, you'll essentially have to pop them off here and on the front there. And that gets them somewhat loose, but then they're still hinged onto there. So you need to get your hand back here and unhinge the back. But that can be difficult because, as you can see right there, this will get in the way. And this is basically an armature for the windshield wipers. So you'll need to get in your car, turn the windshield wipers on, and get them in the somewhat between the starting position and the end position. So right in the middle of that, hold it there, and that will put the armature in the position to allow the most room to move the blower motor around. And this is what the blower motor covers look like. So they just hinge in right there, and then right there. And then you'll also need to remove this electronic bit right here. And this is essentially right next to the blower motor. It bolts in like right around this, right around there. It bolts right in there. So you want to get that off so you got more space to work with. Then once you've done all that, get probably another person to help you out with this. Pull the firewall back as much as possible, rearrange it, check out all different positions, and then pull the blower motor out without breaking the cage. So after a little bit of work, I'm almost getting this cage off. You can see right there the difference between the rust and the shiny metal. This is slowly moving back this way. So what I've noticed, what also helps is holding this squirrel cage right here by this end, and then with your other hand, put it right here on this end. So you got a hand on both squirrel cages, and then rotating this one this way and the other one this way, just rotating them opposite ways, forcing them to turn and break loose. So this one's starting to break loose, and I'm just doing that motion, holding them and turning them in the opposite ways and slowly pulling this way. And after a little bit of work, it finally came off. As you can see, there's like a part number on the inside of it. Because of this end, and then the difference for the outside, as you can see, is between the fan blades, there's like a lettering system, A, B, C, kind of goes into positioning. So I think you can match up with this one doing that. So another trick to get this cage off, once you got the other one off, is to grind this end flat, put a wrench on that side once it's flat, and then with the wrench hold it in place and then start rotating this. The rotation will allow it to break free, and you can slowly start rotating it back and forth and pulling it back, and you'll pull it off. So I got my blower motor today, and I went ahead and installed it and hooked it up electrically, turned the car on, and turned the fan on, and this actually started spinning. So the issue with my car was the blower motor was bad, as I thought. To get the blower motor assembly back together, it's not really possible to do it while it's sitting in the car, at least from my experience. So what I'm doing is that the motor and the blower motor is set up like this. And to get started in, you want to get some WD-40, hit it here on the squirrel cage and then on the motor. And then get a heat gun, heat it up a bit, get both ends warm, the squirrel cage hole and the blower motor hole, get it warm so it'll make the plastic a little bit more malleable. And then you put it in this fashion and start pushing down, and then I got a rubber mallet and started hitting it gently from up here, and it slowly locks into place. And you want it to get to lock into place of the original motor, and I've got the original spot marked off with the Sharpie right there. And basically from the original motor, you can notice the original spots by seeing where the shiny spots are. That's the rust area. The shiny spots are essentially where your squirrel cage was sitting. So you get it lined up and compare these marks. You can mark those marks off on here on the new blower motor, and then essentially put it back together. And after a little trial and error, I figured out the best technique is to add WD-40 on the rod end and on the squirrel cage. Once you got WD-40 on it, take the heat gun, apply heat, warm this area up on the hole inside here, and then apply a ton of heat on the metal rod. Once you've got this heated up really hot, you're going to start pushing them together. Take the assembly like this, take the rubber mallet, and then you're going to hit it right on the top of that center right there. Hit it several times, and the metal will be so hot that it pushes its way through a lot easier, and then you let it cool down and it'll lock itself in place real well. So now I just gotta do the same for the other squirrel cage. And now I got the other squirrel cage on. And for the other squirrel cage, for some reason this one slid on a lot easier. All it needed was a touch of WD-40, and it didn't need any heat. I was just able to continuously take the mallet, hit it right here, and get it to slide on properly. So yeah, now it's good to go back into the car. And once you get the blower motor positioned correctly in here, you can get it powered up and running, and basically just gotta make sure it's positioned correctly so the squirrel cages don't rub up along the black plastic there. So just gotta center it up right, and then it'll be good to go, and there'll be no rubbing. The next thing you'll want to do is to get the fan blade covers on, the squirrel cage covers. And the easiest way to do that is to get the front of it locked in place first. Once that is locked into place, then you tilt it and then you push it back onto the back area back here and get it locked into the back area next. Then once that's locked into place and you got both the squirrel cages on, don't forget to get this electrical bit right here all set back up and bolted back on. And then once you've got the blower motor back installed and the covers and this electrical bit, you're pretty much good to go. After that's all installed, you just want to go through and essentially bolt the firewall back into place. Once you've got the firewall bolted back on, do not forget to go back and re-zip tie the cables back onto the firewall. There's a couple of spots here, and all the way down along the firewall. Also, some key spots to notice on how to get some of these parts in and out easier. I noticed that pulling this firewall off and bolting it all the way, moving it out like this, possibly having another person help you, and through this area right here, this is what I noticed to be the best area to bring the blower motor with the fans on the complete assembly in and out of the firewall while switching the firewall on. That was a good area for that, and also to bring this cover in. And then to bring this cover in, I noticed it helped. Let's come over here, pull this all the way out, and then try to use this space down here. Use that as a way to bring in the bottom of this cover, bring that down in the hole, and that gives you enough space to reposition it and bring it up into here. You might also have to do some tilting and some finagling, but you'll eventually be able to get it in.